Most popular Russian desserts Part 2 by Angel Nightingale. Number 1. Kartoshka. Russian chocolate cake truffles. The word potato in Russian can mean both a vegetable and a type of cake. To be fair, the cake does look like the vegetable, hence the name. In Russian you call it kartoshka. It's neither fancy nor does it have a sophisticated flavor profile, but I, like many Russian people, am very fond of it because of the childhood memories it brings back. When I grew up, I realized that my favorite cake is nothing more than cookie crumbs mixed with condensed milk and butter. That's simple and unpretentious, but nevertheless delicious. History of kartoshka cake. The first mentions of this dessert can be found in the beginning of 20th century. It doesn't mean that kartoshka was never made before, only that the written recipes would be impossible to find in cookbooks. Initially, it was a way of utilizing old, unsold pastries. Olga Shartunovskaya wrote in her memoirs, "Kartoshka is meant to be a simple cheap treat that one can make in 20 minutes. Baking a cake from scratch just to crumble it afterwards definitely adds some work. Store-bought biscuits work just fine." Condensed milk. The easiest way is to use Nestle's Milkmaid or any other brand of condensed milk you can find. But if you are willing to go an extra mile, you need a tin of Russian condensed milk made according to GOST standards. GOST is a certification system developed in Soviet Union that guarantees the highest quality. Even today, GOST condensed milk is the only one Russian women use in their kitchens. You can find it in international or Eastern European grocery stores. Kartoshka, an easy Soviet dessert made of crushed cookies, condensed milk, and butter. Prep time: 5 minutes. Cook time: 15 minutes. Total time: 20 minutes. Ingredients: 320 g biscuits, 150 g butter, 190 g condensed milk, 2 tablespoons cocoa powder plus 3 tablespoons cocoa powder for coating, 50 g nuts of your choice. I use walnuts or hazelnuts, toasted. 2 tablespoons cognac, optional. Instructions: 1. Melt butter in a saucepan. 2. Place biscuits and half the nuts into blender and pulse until they turn into fine crumbs. 3. Chop the rest of the nuts with a knife. 4. Mix biscuit crumbs with cocoa powder and chopped nuts. 5. Add melted butter and condensed milk into biscuit mixture. Mix well until you get dough-like consistency. You can add cognac for added flavor. 6. Take a scoop of dough, I use ice cream scoop, and roll it into a ball or oval-shaped potato to make it look more like a classic version. 7. When all the balls are done, place them in refrigerator and let them cool for 15 minutes. 8. Sift cocoa powder over the balls, turning them several times to make sure they are covered on all sides. Number 2. Muraveinik. Anthill cake. Anthill cake is the definition of Slavic childhood comfort food. It features buttery cake crumbs soaked in dulce de leche and shaped into a festive anthill. A step-by-step on making anthill cake. The most interesting part of oddity of a cake is the need for a meat grinder. You'll use it to shape the dough into long, thin strips that form the anthill texture. Make the cake batter. Place the all-purpose flour into a large bowl with sugar. Next, use a fork to stir in the soft butter and sour cream. In a small bowl, whisk the baking soda and vinegar together and add it into the flour mixture. Pop the dough into the refrigerator for an hour. Grind the dough. Next, pass handfuls of the dough through a meat grinder to create long, thin strips. Spread the ground dough pieces on a prepared baking sheet and bake them in the oven for about 10 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Make the cake base. Break the dough pieces into tiny pieces. Combine the softened butter and dulce de leche until creamy. Add the dough pieces into the caramelly mixture and give it a quick stir with a spatula. Form the cake. Shape the caramelly cake crumble into a mound on a serving plate or pop it into a lined bread pan. It's up to you. Allow it to set in the refrigerator overnight. Enjoy! Allow the unsalted butter to soften at room temperature. The butter will be so much easier to incorporate into dough and cake cream if it's been softened at room temperature. Pull it out of the fridge 30 minutes before you start baking and you'll be golden. If the dough is too dry, add 1 or 2 tablespoons of water. If the cake dough is a little too dry and crumbly to handle, add in 1 to 2 tablespoons of water to hydrate it. Mix in your favorite odds and ends. Experiment with the flavors of this classic cake by mixing in your favorite ingredients. Walnuts, hazelnuts, chocolate sprinkles, and poppy seeds are all great additions. Allow the cake to set overnight. This killer cake is 1,000 times more tasty when you allow it to set overnight and fully develop all its flavors. A chill overnight also makes for easy slicing. Don't skip this step. Make your own dulce de leche from scratch. You can always buy dulce de leche store-bought. Making it homemade is super simple. Check out our recipe for instant pot dulce de leche for all you need to know. Make ahead and storage tips. Anthill cake is great for making ahead and can be assembled up to 3 days in advance. To keep it fresh, cover it tightly in plastic wrap on a large plate or store it in an airtight cake container. Just make sure you don't build your mound so high that it doesn't fit. When stored properly, this cake should keep fresh for up to a week. Servings: 14 servings. Prep time: 30 minutes. Cook time: 30 minutes. Total time: 1 hour. Ingredients: cake dough, 200 g unsalted butter room temperature, 4 cups all-purpose flour, half a cup sugar, half a cup sour cream, 1 teaspoon baking soda, half a tablespoon white vinegar dulce de leche cake cream, 2 cans dulce de leche, 1 cup unsalted butter room temperature. Instructions: cake dough. In a large bowl, combine flour together with sugar. Using a fork, stir in the softened room temperature butter. Add in the sour cream and give the batter a good stir. In a small bowl, combine the baking soda and vinegar. Add the mixture to the dough and stir until well combined. Place the dough in the refrigerator for about an hour. Put the dough into a meat grinder to form long, thin strips. Spread the dough pieces evenly across a baking sheet. Bake for about 10 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 3. Kissel, viscous fruit dessert. What is Kissel? The name is from the Russian word meaning sour, pronounced kisly. The first mention of Kissel was in the 10th century, and it looked completely different from what we recognize today. Back then, it was usually made with oats, rye, or even as a pea jelly. Yes, think green peas. That doesn't sound very appetizing. The berry versions of Kissel started to appear in the wealthy homes in the early 19th century. It's served as a dessert, or can be served as a strained drink. My mother's Kissel recipe was never strained. The old recipes never strained the fruit unless there were seeds or hard skins in the fruits. The strained modern varieties of this dessert are quite popular now, sometimes served as a thickened drink. I think it's like making a Moore's drink and thickening it. I prefer the older rustic way. It's faster, keeps the fruit in the dessert, plus has added fruit fiber. Some people puree the fruit before thickening. How to make Kissel. This is such an easy recipe to make, full of fruity goodness. We usually buy frozen berries from the supermarket, which makes it easy to make this dessert year-round. Frozen blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, and cranberries. Just bring them to a simmer with water and sugar, then thicken with the potato starch. You can strain the fruit before thickening, but as I said, I prefer the rustic version of Kissel. Kissel is a classic Russian and Slavic dessert or drink. It's like a summer soup made with berries thickened with potato starch. I love this dessert from my childhood. Bon appetit! Cook time: 15 minutes. Total time: 15 minutes. Ingredients: 6 cups frozen mixed berries. 1 cup frozen cranberries. 3 cups water. Half a cup sugar. 3 tablespoons potato flour. Heaping tablespoons. Instructions. Place the frozen berries and cranberries, sugar and 3 cups of water in a pot over high heat. Bring to a boil and reduce heat to medium-high and simmer for about 15 minutes. Taste Kissel and add more sugar if necessary. This will depend on the natural sugars in your fruit. Add the potato starch to water in a small jug and slowly pour into Kissel. Stir constantly while Kissel thickens. Do not stop stirring. If you want a thicker consistency, an extra tablespoon of starch to a 1/4 cup of water and repeat process. Remove from heat. Served hot or cold. Hope you enjoy. Have a wonderful day to each and everyone.